welcome to CodeSoft. In this video, we are going to talk about the conditional statements with joins. So let's get started. Now we have discussed in the previous video that how we can actually write queries using different joins and join two different databases and tables, right? But in every scenario, we do not actually want to just basically join them. After getting the output of join, we may also want certain conditions to be applied on them to get the exact output that we actually want to fetch, right? So for these things, we will use the where clause after applying the join condition. So we know that using a where clause, we can apply different conditions on a particular query, right? So first we will write the general query of the join that we are actually having. And after that, we will append our where condition so that to the output of join, we can actually apply those where conditions, right? Now, let me show you with the help of an example. So as I've told you earlier also that LeetCode and HackerRank, both of them have very good problems on SQL queries. So I will just open one LeetCode problem to display how conditional statements can be applied on joins. So this is the question. It says the name of the question is employees earning more than their managers. So there is only a single table. Now one thing I want to tell you that it's not necessary that we have to have two different data to join them. We can actually create two copies of the same data and again join them on the basis of two different columns or fields. Now how that will happen, I'll show you in this question. So this is a single table having four fields. There is ID field, there is name field, salary field, and manager ID. So what it is so it's an employee table where each employee is having his name, his salary, his ID, and also the ID of manager who is actually managing him, right? So you can see there is relation in between this table only. So if you see that one's manager is 3 and three's ID is also present in the table. So basically ID and manager ID will have same values but in some different order or rearranged one, right? So any ID will have certain different manager ID. Similarly, some different manager ID will have something else, right? Now you can see that the manager ID of 2 is 4, but there is no manager ID of 3 because he is the manager, so he does not have any other manager above him. So this is how the table is. Now we can create two copies of this and then join them, right? Now what the question says is that using this table, we have to find out that how many employees or basically which employee is actually getting more salary than his manager, right? And if you look at the sample output that is printed in the second table, you can see that we have to write the name of the employee who is getting more salary than his salary than his manager, right? So let's start our basic query. So first thing, it's very clear that we need to have select statement. So let me just write it here. So we should have select statement, and inside here we have to specify the columns that of which we want to print the records. After that, we will have from, and here the tables are mentioned. Here next thing is the join statement, and so from left table, and then there is join right table, right? And after that we can apply our on clause. So on clause is basically the rows on which we want to actually join these tables, right? And after that there will be the where clause, and here we will write our condition. So quickly filling each one of them. Now if you want to create two copies of the same table, you will actually have to give those each copy a different name, right? So that is what I will do. So what I will do is I will create first table as, so the name of the table as specified in the question is employee. So from employee as E. Now you know that whenever we have to rename any particular table or any column, we use the as keyword, right? So the same thing we will do here. We will create one copy of employee with the name of E, and this will actually denote that this is an employee table. And in the right side, we will create another copy of the employee table, and this will be as M. So this represents that this is the manager table, right? So we have two tables now. One will be manager table and second table will be employee table, right? And we have to select certain thing, right? What we actually have to select here is the name of the employee. So we can so if in the select statement of join queries, we first write table name dot field name, right. So that is what I will do. So we just want to print the name of the employee, so we will do e dot name. Very clear. And also one thing that we have to name it as employee. Why we are doing this? Because if you look at the output here, the name of the field that is getting printed is named as employee. So we will have to do e dot name as employee. So this is our basic things. Now we have to write the type of the join we are doing. So you can clearly see that in this particular scenario, we actually want the intersection of both these tables, right? So for intersection of both the tables, we actually use the inner join. So till now we have written the query that select ename as employee from employee as e, inner join employee as m. Very clear. Now we have to write the on statement. Now this you have to take care and look at this very carefully. So this will be on e dot manager id, right, equals to m dot id. m.id. Now what this signifies is that in the employee table we are taking the manager ID, and in the manager table we are taking the normal ID, that is the first field. So basically if I talk about the manager table, so in manager table the IDs will actually be equal to the manager ID, right? And similarly in the employee table the manager ID will be the manager ID of it. So again, telling that we are joining on e.manager_id equals to m.id. This means that from the employee table, I will pick the manager ID, and from the manager table, I will pick just the ID. And whenever both of them will be equal, that is the intersection, and through the inner join, that value will be picked. Now we will pick all those IDs where we are getting some manager ID and ID, right? But now we also have to apply the condition on it, that is the ID, the salary of employee should be greater than the salary of the manager. So we will just write that e dot salary, that is the salary from employee table, should be greater than m dot salary. And that's all I think. So if I just try to run this on this, and yes, it is getting accepted. So this is our particular query, and I hope this is clear that how we actually can also create two copies of a particular data and then join them and also apply conditional statements on them. That was the main agenda of this particular video, right? So that's all with this video. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned to add more festoons into your knowledge garland, and till then please keep subscribing. Thank you.